Hi, I'm Jodi Miller, and I am the only single mother in the room. It's, it's indescribable. You just know. You're like, this is my daughter. I forget that I didn't birth her. And by the way, that year and a half, or even before that, for those of you out there that are listening that are trying to get pregnant, can't get pregnant, have decided that you are going to adopt, you definitely need to give yourself some time to grieve the fact that you can't have your own biological child. And I did grieve that. And it was really heartbreaking because I really wanted my own biological child because I'm hot and I wanted a hot baby. But guess what, though? My baby is...
I was going to say, she's hot.
She's so hot. My baby's so hot. I talk about it on stage. She's gorgeous.
Yes.
No, I did have to really grieve that. And then once I got her, then you have to grieve the death of your old life. There's a lot of grieving. But there's a lot of joy, obviously. And believe it or not, the death of my mom and the birth of my daughter are very similar. The way I spent the time in the hospital, the way you sort of go on autopilot about, okay, I have to do X, Y, and Z. I have to get this in order. I have to do this. Your life is now different. You're going home to a new life. It felt very reminiscent of that.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins. This is The Only One in the Room. I am never the only one in this room for a variety of reasons, but I'm also joined by my producer, boyfriend, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun.
Hi, honey.
Hey, honey. So today we're in studio again. Aren't we lucky?
We are.
We had so many in studio days.
Yeah, I was thinking some people go to yard sales on Saturdays. We went to a baby party and found a guest.
Yes.
We instead of going to a yard sale, we went and found a guest.
We've literally never gone to a yard sale together.
This is about as close as we've come.
Yeah, but
Before
this one,
I met you,
the
I
party
used to
was
go.
in a yard, though.
It was.
So that was kind of part of it.
It did.
So we're talking to Jodi Miller today, and so she was on AGT, which is America's Got Talent.
Thanks for the
in
translation.
case you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
She's the executive producer of the comedy game show Funny You Should Ask, which I love, and we're going to talk about that. She's also the host of the world's funniest weather. I don't know anything about that, so you're going to have to explain that
You
to
don't
me,
have
Jodi.
to. It's already making you laugh.
It is. She is an author of a lot of WTF books, yeah. And she's the host of the podcast, Don't Call Me Ma'am. Yes.
I made that mistake on that Saturday.
Right. Well, this is how it came up.
This is how
But she's also, Jodi, just help me out here. You have an upcoming special.
I do have an upcoming special. It's called Decades in the Making. And you're going to be able to stream that in full on YouTube coming mid-May. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Mother's Day weekend, but it could be the day after because most mothers like to drink, myself included. So if I'm too hungover to hit upload, It'll be a day late. But it'll be there, and you'll be able to find it. And, of course,
it's happening.
You'll be able to find me on my social media and see where it is.
Yes, I love that. So you'll check to see if it's late being uploaded. You know that Jodi is hungover.
Yes.
Full disclosure and transparency right off the bat.
So as Scott was talking about, we met you at Michael and Tony's house.
Yes.
And they were having a party to welcome their daughter. Well, actually not welcome Sabrina, but to celebrate
the adoption.
The adoption of Sabrina.
Yes.
And to make sure that, we thought it was going to be like 20.
Oh my God, so did I.
30
So did
people.
I.
I'm surprised they remember that we were there.
Right?
It was like 200
It was like
people.
200
with a bouncy
people.
house,
Yeah.
some of the best food I've had in a long time.
Yeah, it was quite a show.
And we were shown to different areas, right?
Yes.
In the front, there's
Yes.
this happening. Inside, you can leave your gifts, and there's this happening.
It was lovely.
It was really spectacular.
It really was.
Yeah.
I've had several parties, and they've been to my parties, and they, brought lots of great food, and now my party's pale in comparison to the amazing shindig they just threw. It was just wow. That was really.
I honestly was glad we don't have to put on parties like that anymore.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed.
I definitely don't have parties like that for a reason. Like my parties are just hang by the pool, casual, in and out. But this was definitely a cause for celebration. And I don't know if I brought this up to you guys when I met them, talking about meeting people for a reason and how they affect your lives. But, Michael I've known for years through the world of stand-up, and I taught stand-up for many years, and he was a student of mine, and I coached him. And I remember vividly sitting, on my couch in my apartment in the Miracle Mile, the apartment I lived in for 20 years. And he was sitting there and he was explaining to me about the adoption process because him and Tony were, going through it and how you have to match with a birth mom or birth parents. And he was really getting frustrated and feeling hopeless because they weren't getting selected and all these other people were. And we were writing about it, because I'm, I talk a lot about, using your personal experiences on stage. A lot of people can relate to them. And we were coming up with some great stuff. And I remember him just being so upset, like, nobody wants two dads. And I'm like, I do. Can you adopt me? Right. And then cut to, they get their beautiful daughter. They cut to many years later, probably 10, 12 years later. No, not 10. No, it must have been 5 years later. I'm like, many. I don't even know. I don't know what today is.
At our age.
At our age, it's just so fast. It was 57 years ago. So I just made the decision to adopt myself, and he was the first person I called.
Yeah.
And I used their lawyer and their adoption agency. And then, here we are. They have 2 kids. I have 1 with the energy of 5.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Tony Spadafora was actually a guest on our show.
So great.
And he talked about being the only over 50 gay dad at pickup.
Wow. That's really funny.
And, in his colorful Crocs.
Yes.
And he had like this kind of uniform that he wore for pickup, and it might just be a life uniform for him, but it was it was such a great episode because he's funny, so funny, but also it was very real. This is, and he might have actually been, we talk about our titles are tongue in cheek, but he might have actually been the only over 50 gay dad,
right,
in the pickup line for their older daughter. And I'm just really grateful that, first of all, and Scott knows me, I'm very warm. I'm not usually as friendly as I was with you. I caution him. He's so friendly, Jodi.
I have to be,
he makes friends with everybody.
With everyone.
Well, less now than when I first moved here. But
right. Well,
I've been conditioned by her. So I look over my shoulder before I make eye contact. Is it okay?
I mean, he'll talk to people. I'll be like, do not talk to them because they're going to follow us over there.
Right.
And then we have to talk to them for the rest of the
right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's just curious, and he'll ask people what things are, and he'll have a conversation. Anyway.
I talked to a lot of people that day when you weren't around.
I saw him before I actually talked to both of you, off to the side.
Talking to people.
Just listen to me.
He talks to a lot of people.
Let's just get this conversation out now.
But I so enjoyed talking to you.
So did I.
Yeah. It was just like one of those things. I was like, oh, I am loving this conversation with this woman.
Oh, I loved it too. It was one of those, and it was funny because we were just about to leave.
Yes.
Because I didn't like talking to anyone else there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was. Here's the thing. I dressed inappropriately, and when you're in Southern California nowadays, you don't know what you're getting, and sometimes when it's sunny, it all of a sudden becomes so hot.
Yes.
And I wasn't dressed right. My daughter was about to pee her pants because we're potty training. She just wanted to go to the park. She dropped her cookie. I was sweating. Mm-hmm. People were like, "Oh, let's talk," and I was like, "Don't touch me." And then I'm on the way out, and some very sweet guy says, "Ma'am,"
and right.
I have to hold back the vomit, but then I see this beautiful woman next to him. I'm like, "Well, he's clearly got good taste in women."
Little did I know.
Thank you. That's so funny. Literally, her podcast is titled.
I mean, you're probably the only person I called ma'am that day, by the way.
Okay.
300. And you guys will talk about this later. Actually, I'm not even going to touch it. I do want to say thank you for the compliment that you gave me in that story. Your Wikipedia page, which I was very impressed. I'm always impressed when someone has a Wikipedia page. It says that in 2021 you adopted your daughter, and I just thought that's weird. It's a weird detail for them to add, the adopted part, right?
Yeah, I don't even know who updates that, by the way.
Yeah.
So it is a weird...
It is. I thought it was an odd detail, but it did, make me want to hear more about the journey, especially since it was added in there.
Yeah.
So you talked about starting with Michael and Tony.
Right. So...
But before that, just tell me, like for me,
Yeah.
I'm someone who never ever babysat or
Right.
loved other people's kids.
Yeah, no.
Or, when my dreams of being an adult did not necessarily include children.
Right.
They didn't exclude them.
Right.
But it wasn't like my goal in life.
Right.
And so when I had them, I was obviously, I fell, not obviously, because not everybody does. I should walk that back. But I did fall in love with both of my boys. And then my 2 bonus daughters from Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So great.
But I wasn't a person that was predicted to have children. So I want to know about your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me.
I mean, it's funny that all my friends are like, oh, yeah, you've always wanted to be a mom. And I don't actually remember that. I think they're confusing that with the fact that I have a very mothering personality. And I've always taken people under my wing, from a young age, or been someone that enjoys inspiring other people, educating other people, teaching comedy, just being an advocate for people that, especially in this industry, can't seem to find their way or need just a helping hand. And I've done that with a lot of my friends, throughout my life. I was that person that people would come to ask advice for stuff. So I think when people say, oh, you've always wanted to be a mom, I think they confuse that a little bit. And then I eventually heard it so much that I was like, oh, yeah, I always wanted to be a mom.
Right.
But I remember telling my dad, because, I was very invested in my career and just traveling a lot, doing a lot of stand-up, doing a lot of stuff, and wasn't meeting the one. And my dad was constantly putting pressure on me. He really wanted a grandchild. My mom, not so much. My dad really did. So I remember telling him, like, at 35, I'll get pregnant on my own. And, like, you'd think a dad would be like, no, don't do that. Like, that's his worst nightmare in high school, that his teenage daughter gets knocked up. But at this point, he was like, yeah, do it. Have sex with someone. Don't use protection. I don't want to know. Have that baby. You know what I mean? He was like, let's do this. So 35 came and went, because I was like, I'm not going to get pregnant right now, because look at me. I'm 35 and my skin is so tight.
Nice.
And I've got so much to do and so many younger guys to sleep with. Like, I didn't have any intention of being a mom at that point. I still wanted it. I think if I'm being honest with myself, and right before my daughter came into my life, I think I've always wanted to be in an intimate, loving relationship. Like you and Scott have this great relationship. I wanted that my whole life, for sure. Not even like the big wedding. I just wanted that partnership. And it's really never happened. I've had, definitely some small, short relationships, but nothing that was really substantial. And I thought to myself, whichever presents itself, or they both do, like, I'm just going to be open to it. It just wasn't happening. So my mom unfortunately passed away when I was 41. And
sorry.
That, thank you. And that kind of threw me into I got very upset one night. I remember just thinking, like, she never got to see me get married, and she never became a grandmother, and she would have been an amazing grandmother. And I felt very selfish. I felt really like, wow, I should have done it earlier. Like I said, I was going to, even though she never put pressure on me, she never did that. It's my own crap. So I grieved, obviously, for my mom, and then I decided I'm going to go see a fertility doctor, see what's what. And he was like, things look great. Let's do it.
So as this is all happening, you are doing stand-up?
Doing stand-up, writing, performing a lot, traveling a lot, working, different jobs. This is before America's Got Talent. But, like, I had a lot of different jobs throughout my life, as a lot of people in Los Angeles do. Teaching stand-up. I taught stand-up to middle school students, high school students, but mostly adults. Did like a lot of improv. I was in improv companies, doing a lot of stuff like that. Again, traveling, doing military tours, doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so those were very rewarding, and I'm glad I did it then when I had all the energy and all. It was all great. So by the time I saw my fertility doctor, he thought everything was great. We did something called IUI. For those of you who know, it's less invasive than IVF. And it wasn't working. It wasn't happening. We did a lot of rounds, and I was getting ready to do another military tour, and he was like, let's try when you get back. And when I got back, things had changed, and he wanted me to switch to IVF. So I was about to start the first round, and I got on America's Got Talent. So I thought, that's why I didn't get pregnant, because I'm supposed to do this. So I did that. That played out. And
was that like I can only imagine that it's like the kind of the ultimate to get on America's Got Talent.
It's definitely, it's a great honor, and it's a really great thing to be on it. For me, and that's a story for another podcast, it wasn't the best experience. It was a great experience and a bad experience. I've talked about it multiple times. Not everything is what you think it is when you watch a reality competition show.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got burned pretty bad, but the experience of me being on there and getting a standing ovation from all 4 judges, and
What?
yes, and my clip being viewed millions upon millions of times. I mean, over and over again. It's gone viral so many times. Was great and amazing. So that was great.
I kind of want to hear about the burn.
Okay, I'll tell you about the burn in 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, because it'll lead me to different. It'll lead me into this.
Okay, yeah. So you'll finish.
No, yeah. So
Yeah.
I can't get pregnant. AGT is played out. I'm actually, everything is sort of like, crumbling around me. I remember my fertility doctor's like, you should do, embryo adoption, which is where you take an embryo and then you put it inside and then you carry the baby. I was, thinking about all these things. And then I really
Someone else's embryo.
And because you can carry a baby, women can, our uteruses don't age the way our ovaries do. So you can carry a baby into your 60s. Of course, my gynecologist was like, do you really want to be pregnant in your mid to late 40s? I'm like, no. So I was like, let's not do that. So I just put everything on hold. And then I got hired for Funny You Should Ask on the pilots. That sort of took off in the amazing direction that it did. I became a head writer. And I was like, God, I think I still want to be a mom. Because I looked at it like this. There are 2 really specific loves in a person's life. The love of an intimate partner and the love of a child. And I had neither. And I didn't want to leave this life without either. Obviously I love my parents. One of them was gone and that hole was very obvious. And I was like, what if I don't experience either? I can't control, by swiping my way through Los Angeles if I wanted to meet that cool guy who's like ready for a middle-aged woman. But I was like, but let me try this one more time. You know what I mean? So I decide I'm going to adopt. And then I wait for like a year and a half. And that first time I sat with Michael talking about waiting all came flooding back, and then the pandemic. You guys remember that when the world shut down? Remember that?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not really important. So it was just like me and my cat in this new house that I just bought. Like I'm just sitting there, just like, oh my God, this is my life. Like, and then other cats, I'm not even kidding you, just started showing up. They were like, we heard there was like a single childless woman living in North Hollywood. Get your furry ass over. Let's go. She'll feed you. And I do. It's like a small cat sanctuary. So I was like, okay, this is my life. And I remember talking to my therapist online at the time saying, look, I'm waiting for this child, but if I meet a man who doesn't want children or already has children, I'll be okay with that too. If he's like, whatever the universe is going to bring to me. And then I was doing a podcast. It was a Sunday afternoon. I get this text from my lawyer, Michael and Tony's lawyer. He's like, so there's a great possibility, and I do what I would always do. You just send your packet, which is like a packet of your life, off, and a cover letter that's like, please give me your baby. And I forgot about it because normally you don't hear anything. It's like an audition for those of you
I was about to say this.
It's exactly like that.
Yes.
Yeah, you just let it go. Cut to 3 hours later, I'm on the couch eating a bowl of whipped cream, watching Gilmore Girls.
Bowl of whipped cream.
It's really good. If you don't just eat bowls of whipped cream, people, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But it's really, really good. Coconut whipped cream, too, from Trader Joe's.
Oh, there you go.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's yummy. Just like that sweet tooth without, Anyway, so there I am, and I see that my lawyer's calling, and I thought, the packet didn't go through. The PDF is a big file. So I answer it. I say, hello, David. And there was like silence. It was weird. It was a very deafening silence. You're just like, whoa. And he just said, you've been selected. And I said, for what?
Right.
For what? And he goes, Jodi, your baby was born this morning. You need to get on a plane tomorrow in the middle of a pandemic and go to Kentucky. And then I really did lose my hearing.
Just gave me chills.
It
my
was
goodness.
really, I just got the chills again too.
Yeah.
I feel it every time I say it because the funny thing is that my knee-jerk reaction was, this isn't my baby. You didn't tell me it was going to be like this. I was going to have 3 months at least to prepare, get to know the birth mother. Like, what do I do? I can't get on a plane to go to Kentucky. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know what do I do? I was spiraling, and I remember literally spiraling. I was going around and around and around in a circle in my living room. And my lawyer's like, so this lawyer's going to call you. This agency's going to call you. You need to get this. And I didn't know what to do. And then he took a beat and said, okay, I know this is the most stressful way this can happen, but it's the best way. There's no birth father. I mean, there was one at one point, but those rights are relinquished, and the birth mother, this is her 13th pregnancy, so she's clearly wants to give this baby up. It's the best way. And I remember calling my dad, who also was, praying for. I told him too, and he had the same reaction. Well, we don't know anything about this woman. We don't know. We don't know. And he was also, because you're scared. You're so scared. It's so fast. It's too fast. You know what I mean?
You were just eating whipped cream.
I was just eating whipped cream, which is now a puddle in my bowl. I was like, I don't know. I can't eat this whipped cream anymore. My daughter ruined my whipped cream. So I get it together somehow. I get on the plane. I'm vomiting all the way to Kentucky. No joke. I was so nervous. I was like, and you couldn't take anyone with you because it was a pandemic. So I had no one. All my best girlfriends were like, please, can we come with you? And I'm like, I wish you, nobody, they wouldn't let anybody come except for me. I get there. She was in the NICU. She was born 6 weeks early. I check in. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm literally just like a chicken without its head. I'm like, I'm Jodi and I have a baby here. They're like, what? And then they find it and they're like, okay, so you're the legal guardian. Like, they don't even say mom yet, but they know that it's an adoption situation. And then they walk me down this long hallway in the NICU, and I turn the corner and I walk in, and she's in this little tiny incubator. I almost start crying. And I did. I kind of collapsed into the nurse's arm because of all that, and. Then again, I was like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, a lot of people do skin on skin. And I was like, okay, yeah, my friends. But, by the way, I'm also someone that I don't love babies. I've never been a baby lover. Anytime, and all my friends have kids. I love all their kids. I love them, and they're now adults. But they would be like, "Oh, hold my baby." I'm like, yeah, don't. We have the same.
I'm with it.
I'm done. I held one at lunch. I'm full. I don't want to like the head.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. You know what I mean? So I was like, but I, love children. So I'm sitting there, I'm holding the baby skin on skin, and I'm like staring at the nurse, and she's like, okay, and bottle feed him. And I'm like, okay, am I supposed to feel something right now? I don't know what's happening. My lawyer did say, if this isn't the right scenario, then you can pull out. It's okay. So I'm just sitting there like kind of staring off and looking at this incredibly tiny little baby, 4 pounds, 7 ounces, holding her and looking at the nurse. And she's like, it's beautiful. And I have a mask on. I'm like, what's happening to me? And then she takes the baby and she puts, her back in the incubator. And, newborns, for those of you who don't know, can't see 6 inches past, the very limited sight. So I got really close. And I remember somebody saying, say affirmations to the baby. Say the affirmations. So I got really close and I was like, you are strong. You are healthy. You are special. You are beautiful. You are loved. And I just said all of that. And I was looking at her. She was totally asleep. This entire time I was there, by the way, she was asleep. And then all I said was, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. And her eyes darted open right away, and we locked eyes, and then tears out of my eyes. And I knew in that instant, that's my daughter.
This is my daughter.
And I called my dad on the way out, and I was like, that's my daughter. And looking at everything I've been through, so many things I've been through, led me to this point. She was always meant to be my daughter. Everything I went through led me here, and she is supposed to be with me. You know what I mean? Like, we just, it's indescribable. You just know. You're like, this is my daughter. I forget that I didn't birth her. And by the way, that year and a half, or even before that, for those of you out there that are listening that are trying to get pregnant, can't get pregnant, have decided that you are going to adopt, you definitely need to give yourself some time to grieve the fact that you can't have your own biological child. And I did grieve that. And it was really heartbreaking because I really wanted my own biological child because I'm hot and I wanted a hot baby. But guess what, though? My baby is...
I was going to say, she's hot.
She's so hot. My baby's so hot. I talk about it on stage. She's gorgeous.
Yes.
No, I did have to really grieve that. And then once I got her, then you have to grieve the death of your old life. There's a lot of grieving. But there's a lot of joy, obviously. And believe it or not, the death of my mom and the birth of my daughter are very similar. The way I spent the time in the hospital, the way you sort of go on autopilot about, okay, I have to do X, Y, and Z. I have to get this in order. I have to do this. Your life is now different. You're going home to a new life. It felt very reminiscent of that. And I remember telling all the NICU nurses, like, this feels like when my mom was dying, even though it was a much happier scenario. I'm feeling the exact same emotions,
and doing a lot of the same things.
Yes, on autopilot, doing the same things, calling people. What do I do? I had to go back to LA, come back and get stuff, and then brought her home. And now she's 3, and it was a rough journey. It's very rough being a single mom. Very, very, very difficult. And it's people are always like, you're doing it on your own, you're so amazing, you're a single mom. And like I've told you, I didn't set out to be a single mom. I just wanted to be a mom.
Right.
And unfortunately, this is, we have an expiration date. And you know what I mean?
We do.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Wow. I'm still stuck on, there are two, what did you say, significant
yes,
loves? Or-
yes, very significant types of loves
Yeah.
in a person's life.
and that with a partner and with a child. And I have definitely found that to be true, and I just never heard anybody put it that way before. And that your decision to have the one that you could have that was accessible to you.
Yes.
And I love that your dad was just like, go get it.
Oh,
go,
get that.
Go get your
that
baby.
I don't care where you have to get it. You get
Yeah.
me. And he is. I mean, my dad is 80 years young, and my daughter has brought new life into him, and my stepmom, who is amazing as well. They're so overjoyed. It's their only grandchild, and they're so, over the moon, and they're incredible. They're actually coming out to visit in a couple of days. They're just
Nice.
It's from the moment I got her, they started coming out every 6 weeks from Jersey
Oh,
to help, which was
That's
very
a trek.
helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
But they were, they love it and they love her. And, thankfully with today's technology, we FaceTime them, video call them a lot. So she's grown up seeing their faces constantly, whether it's on the tablet or in person. And that's important because, I'm an older mom, they're older grandparents, and, nothing's guaranteed, by the way. You could be a young mom, have young grandparents. You don't know, what I
Right.
mean? So I just want to make sure these memories for them, probably more for them than it is for her, but she'll be able to look at these videos that I take all the time of her with them, and you know what I mean? It's important.
I think FaceTime is really cool. We have a 20-month-old in our lives, not ours, but in our lives,
Right.
and she FaceTimes with her grandmother in London, and it really has solidified their bond.
It really,
right?
It
Like
really does.
It's different than, it's not just like, it's like she knows her.
Yes.
Right?
My daughter knew them when they did. So they would come to visit and she would know. And then slowly, she would see them and she'd smile and she'd see them on the tablet. And then when they did show up, she was so excited
Yes.
because she could touch them. So
Yeah.
she's been looking at their faces for a long time.
So when I went on this site that was considering adoption, is that what it's called? It's called Considering Adoption. And it talks, I wrote down all this stuff, but
Yeah.
it really talks about there's a stigma against or about single motherhood, single parenthood, actually.
Yeah.
And that some of it might come from friends and family, some of it might just come from society at large. And that if you're going to consider this, just to be ready to face that, because the ideal is two loving parents.
Right.
Loving also being the operative
Yeah.
word there, right?
Right. Yes.
Because you could get two parents and
Yep.
one of them's not loving,
or both of them are not loving.
or both of them are not loving. So tell me just a little bit about the obstacles that you found once you got her home.
I mean, it's funny because, and you'll laugh because as a parent, both of you will know, that first night, I mean, you're kind of so out of it. The first night I actually got her home to California and we slept and she was up every 3 hours, and I had all the bottles ready and I was ready. I remember waking up, not sleeping, obviously great because I was up a lot. A lot of people
Yeah.
go to sleep, but I remember thinking like, this isn't so terrible. Like if this is the way it is, you know what I mean?
Hour one.
Yeah, you're just like, I mean, like, what do people complain about? Cut to a month later. I think it was one of my worst nights. It was really bad. Can I swear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. I screamed in my daughter's face in her bassinet, "Shut the fuck up." And then I went to the bathroom and cried and rocked back and forth. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to have to return her. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to have to return all the gifts. I'm going to break my dad's heart. I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't know what I was thinking.
Right.
And then I texted my friend who, his daughter is 3 months older than my daughter. We're very good friends back in New York. And he's the same age and everything. So it's very similar. And I said, I screamed, "Shut the fuck up," in her face last night. And he goes, "Yeah, you can do that a lot." And I was like, I go, well, then why doesn't no one talks about it. No one talks about it. And then thankfully, because I have a platform, which is a stage, I really am oh my God, I talk a lot about using comedy as therapy. And a lot of people do. And I can work out a lot of stuff on stage. And I remember getting on stage and being like, why doesn't anybody tell you that 0 to 4 months is the worst time of your life? It is so god awful. It makes you question everything you thought. Why'd you do this? And what's happening is you are also mourning the death of your old life on top of it. And you think you can still have your old life with this baby, and there's a lot of things going on. Now, it was very difficult, and my daughter's taught me a lot of lessons so far, but the biggest was asking for help. I'm a very independent person. Half of it is because I've had to be, and the other half is because it's just, part of my DNA, and I like doing things on my own, and I had to really start asking for help. And it was after that month, that terrible night, that people started really, I started asking for help, and people were really generous with that. And somebody gifted me 5 nights of a baby nurse, a night nurse.
Great gift.
And another comic, and it was great. And he said, the only thing I'm asking you is, he was gifted. He had twins, and another comic had gifted him. And he said, I'm just asking you to pay it forward if you ever get the chance. And I remember she showed up for the first night, and she was like, okay, go to bed. And I was like, what? And I had like another bassinet set out in the living room. And I remember waking up, and the first thing I did is I grabbed my phone and I went on the Bank of America app, and I looked at my finances, and I moved things around, and I was like, oh, I'd rather not eat than not have her. So I went out there, because we were going to do one night a week for 5 weeks. That's how I was going to split it up. So I had one night to look forward to.
Who needs groceries?
Exactly. Well, I don't need to eat. I mean,
the only problem with a baby nurse is now you need a baby nurse.
You need it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my God. So I went out there and I said, so I'm going to need you longer than 5 weeks and more than one night a week. And we worked out a great plan. She was 2 nights a week for a little while, and then we moved up to 3 nights a week until she was 6 months old, and she was, living in her own room in her crib. And it made all the difference. It really, really made so much difference. I was a better mother, I was losing my mind. Interrupted sleep is maybe the worst thing you can do. It's torture. It is torture. Yeah. So I was losing my mind. I was like, I don't know what to do. Thankfully, I wasn't working at that time. So, and then I got her into daycare, and then you get into a rhythm, and you know what I mean? So I think, I'm really fortunate that none of my friends put any of that stigma on me. Like, what are you doing? They were so supportive of me, and they knew that they would say, we knew you'd be a great mom. This is what you've always wanted. They were very supportive of it. And I think being an older mom as a single mom is very helpful. If I was in my 20s as a single mom, no way. I don't even know what I would do. So that really helped. And anyone else who meets me with her, they just assume there's some guy somewhere. Right. You know what I mean? When I say I'm a single mom, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, you've got him somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm lucky that I don't have that, but you know what I do is I put it on myself. Sometimes I get sad and think, she should have a dad. She should. I want her to. Am I selfish for doing this? Is she going to miss out on this? Is she going to resent me? She's going to resent me for a lot of things. So, there's going to be therapy involved no matter what. So I'm like, but I think about that. Like, did I do something really selfish by choosing to, she could have gotten adopted by 2 parents. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe they wouldn't. Like, I know I'm the perfect mother for her. Like, I know we're meant to be together. But, you think about these things because she's now at the age where she's really looking at a daddy who picks up the kid. You know what I mean? She knows what a daddy is, and she looks, and there's just mommy. She's never been like, where's daddy? But she will, you know what I mean? Or, ask about it.
I have a friend she has 2 ridiculously gorgeous daughters.
That was a gulp, sorry.
Yeah.
Right into the microphone.
And the dad is not reliable.
Right.
And she had a spiritual advisor come over after a particularly rough patch, where the girls were very upset. And he held her hands and he said, your girls chose this path. They chose this life. This is the life they're supposed to have. All you're supposed to do is show up the way you're showing up and love them through it. Like, everything else is out of your control, but this is where they're supposed to be. And she found so much relief in that.
I just did, just hearing that.
Yeah. Well, and just like the thing, it's like we don't ever have to really wonder, because whatever the experience is the experience we're supposed to be having.
Right. I believe that too. Yeah.
And, with the topics we cover on this podcast, we interview a lot of people who regret one of their parents.
Yeah.
They're the reason that they are the only one who blank
is
because there was a parent who was challenging for them. There was
Right.
a parental relationship that was really challenging for them. And, you have this little girl that you get to devote all of your love and attention to.
Yes.
But I actually, there was another, I wanted to talk about dating.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to the burn. And you have to, and I want to talk about Don't Call Me Ma'am. So, hon, you have to help me.
Okay. Well, you only got a few minutes left. So.
I know. Because I want to talk about that. I know you said that she's been in daycare since she was 5 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you had the night nurse to give you some
Yes.
relief at night so you could figure out, like, how to get a good night's sleep again and show up for her.
Yeah.
It makes so much difference.
Totally does.
It really does. It's
It really
like,
does.
I was the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I showed up without getting the help, and I worked my way into an Ambien addiction and had to leave my kids and go to treatment. That's where I met Scott 16 years ago. but I wouldn't ask for help.
Right.
I just refused, and I thought the best way for me to be a mom was to show up no matter what.
Right.
And it's not true.
I think maybe that's the benefit, again, of being an older mom, because when I was younger, that's what I'm saying, I might have done that as well. Now, with years of therapy and MDMA journeys with shamans,
Right.
like I'm not kidding, like all of the work I've done on myself has brought me to a place where I do know, as the saying goes, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can help anyone else. Yeah. And it definitely clicked for me once the shock of now that I have a child, wore off, to put her in daycare, because I'm going back to work. I want to start getting her acclimated there, and she thrived. And then having a night nurse, and then having, a babysitter also I needed to make sure that I took care of Jodi as the person, and got some of my aspects of my life back that fulfills me, or I would be no use to her. You know what I mean? And that's what I slowly did. And, it really took a long time, probably almost 2 years, to really get to a place where I'm like, oh, I feel like a version of myself again. Very similar to when my mom died, about the same time, where I'm started like, oh, you know what I mean? I can do this new life now. Yeah. I've got the new tools. And, again, like I look at people that are, were younger moms, that I'm like, I can understand how things happen like that. Yeah. You just like, I can show up, because you also have a different kind of energy, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Than we have as an older parent. So it's very interesting. It's really challenging. It is such a hard job raising kids and being present for them, that anyone who does it, I applaud.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. And I learned, fortunately my kids were little,
right.
And I was able to kind of hit the reset button after, going through all that, and really understood what it was like to be present for them, but also understood what you're talking about taking care of myself. Yeah. And that batting order changed for me. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay.
So taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Gorgeous. I'm looking at you. Tell me about dating.
I mean, it's funny because I'm out there, swiping through LA, open to meeting someone. It just gets harder and harder the older you get, especially in this city. I know people love to use LA as an excuse, but it is true.
It's true.
Not nobody, but a lot of guys, they don't want women my age, even if they are my age. They want younger women, and it's really hard. It's really hard when everything is now, an app compared to old school, when I would just go out. And I'm not out anymore. You know what I mean? I used to be out at the comedy clubs and out with my friends, and I'm just not now. So meeting people in real life is difficult. And when I meet someone online, the truth is that, yes, I do really want that love. I still really believe that I can have it, all of it. But I'm at a place right now where I love my daughter so much that I'm not lonely.
Sweating it. You're not pressed.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'm really happy. I know she's not going to be, lit well. People are like, well, she's going to move out one day. I'm like, no, that's the benefits of being an older parent. She's going to go to college. She's going to come right back. She's going to take care of mommy. She's going to change her diapers. The other day, no joke, we're in the middle of potty training, so she's half and half, and I changed her diaper, and she said, thank you for wiping my tushy, mommy. And I go, you're welcome. And then she goes, Mommy needs a diaper? And I go, in a few years, baby.
Not
years.
yet.
Not yet, but yeah, I'm gonna call that favor back. You're gonna be wiping
Remember when you said
Yeah, remember said that?
Yeah.
I
Is
got
that
it.
when it's okay to say yes, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm gonna-
that's actually okay. You can call me ma'am
We did
when I'm in
that.
my
Right.
70s.
Okay.
There we go, full circle.
Maybe. You have to see how you feel in your 70s.
Guys, listen, don't call women ma'am.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. I mean, it is like, there's no malice in it. We get it, but it's like you punched us in our vagina. That's what it feels like. Like, that's exactly where the pain is. You're like, what?
And it goes up from there.
Up from there. We'd
Yeah.
rather be called a whole bunch of other horrible names. I always say I'd rather be called a whore than a ma'am.
Well, ma'am equals invisible, too.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't
oh my
it?
God. Oh
yeah,
my God,
you start to
absolutely.
disappear, and it's. But we were talking before we started recording. I remember the first time I was
Yes.
called ma'am, and it was a milestone that I didn't want to have. You know,
I don't think anybody wants
Right.
that milestone. So
Right.
you were in a supermarket?
I was
you
in a
said?
supermarket, yeah. And
What
he
were you
said,
buying?
Oh gosh, I don't. Everything went black after that. I don't remember anything else.
People were trying to resuscitate you. You're
right.
like, ma'am,
What
wake
happened?
up, ma'am.
And I looked at him, and he had this very, friendly smile on his face, and he was sincere. He was not from the South, which
Right.
could be an excuse.
Right.
He was addressing me
Maybe
as
he was in the military.
perhaps, but it was the opposite of Miss. Is what he
Yes.
was addressing me
Yes.
as. I was not a Miss
You
to
weren't
him.
Miss.
I
No.
was a ma'am.
You're a ma'am.
And I love that that's the name of your podcast.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah, I listened to a couple of episodes. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's just so difficult to like navigate in the world of social media too, and just everything, AI, everything. I mean, filters, everything. It's conditioning our brain. We already, in our minds, we already look a certain way. Like, I don't think I look as old as I look when I look in the mirror, and I think I look good, but we still have a version of ourselves in our minds. And then we see ourselves in pictures without filters, and we're like, oh my God. And then we see other people with filters, and we're like, how do they look so good? It's so confusing. And
Yes.
it really wrecks your self-esteem.
It does. And so just take that with you, listeners, when you go out into the world and you hear that change it to a miss.
Yes.
Miss, would you mind? Miss.
But don't do the condescending miss.
Oh, no.
Oh, miss.
Miss. Uh-uh.
Oh, I used to
No,
hate
no.
it when I go into a bar and the bartender would ask for, he'd be like, can I
like,
see
"So
your
your
ID,
ID, miss?"
Miss.
Yes.
And I'd be like, all right, asshole.
Right.
You go fuck yourself.
Right. Yes.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Or when you say, I'd be at a bar and I'd be like, they'd be like, oh, it's her birthday. And they'd be like, let me guess, 21. It's like, I will
That's so annoying.
punch you in the throat. Like, we get it. I don't look 21. I'm not
Right,
trying to look 21, but I'm
right.
not 110. What do you like?
Exactly.
I think he wants you to think he's a little turned on. He's like, but he doesn't want to admit it.
Doesn't want to admit it.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm
But
just trying to
it's
translate
still
here.
it's still
Thank
a
you.
no.
Wow.
I know. It's Scotty is the diplomat.
I am diplomat.
You are.
He will see both sides.
It's half full
and
most of the time.
It is.
Uh-huh.
So the burn.
So I'll shorten the story.
Yeah.
Most of the people don't realize, but when you see these competition shows, the people that get on the show for the most part have been selected way ahead of time. Those open auditions, those people rarely get on. And for me, I had a very small audition with 5 producers in a warehouse. I already knew, that I was going through. So you show up on the day, you're just going on to the show and, in front of everyone. I still had to obviously perform for the celebrity judges, but, I'd gotten on that way, which most people have. So I go, I've been performing a long time, but of course they want your sad story. Make it sound desperate. You've never had anything in your life. You're starving. You're eating. So, but because I'm an actor, I'm like, I can play. I can give you B-roll. I can make people cry. I kept saying, do you want me to talk about my dead mom? And they're like, no, save it for the next episode. I'm like, okay. Because dead mom will get you right through. So I get up there, I do what I do. It was a magical experience that no one can ever take away from you. It was 3,000 people on their feet, applause breaks in a 90-second, very difficult to get in a 90-second spot. And, the judges are up. They say it's like one of those dream moments where they're saying exactly what you can't believe it. You're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. And then, all the producers are rushing around me and my manager. Let's get the B-roll. For those of you who don't know what a B-roll is, it's just behind the scenes stuff that they add in as filler. My backstory, we're doing everything. They're telling my manager, get her social media stuff all in order. And oh my God, I was getting all these emails. Everybody, what are you going to do for the next set? Because I got the 4. It was just amazing. Then it was getting closer to the day that I was supposed to leave for New York for the next round, and I wasn't hearing anything. And people that I know that got through, they already got their stuff, and I was waiting. And my personal producer was like, "Yeah, we're just waiting on a couple things," and blah 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 blah. Cut to the morning I was supposed to leave at 6 a.m. I get an alert on my phone, and it was just a very straightforward email that said, "Unfortunately, we're not going to move forward with you. Thanks. Best of luck."
Why?
Because now no one's ever going to really admit this, but I just know from inside sources of people that work there and transcripts and other producers or whatever. There was another comedian on there. I'm not even going to say her name. It's not important. She's a phenomenal comedian who was a mom. I was trying to get pregnant, so that was an ultra burn. We're both white and Jewish. And I think they were like, "Oh,
we already have one?
We already have. Well, yeah. And she's a mom. We're going to go with the mom one.
Wow.
Not the other one who's talking about being a Juger, as I called myself, because I was a cougar, but I was Jewish, so I was a Juger.
It's a really funny act. I saw
thank
that.
Thank you. But I mean, like, but I was like, they I guess they thought that wasn't going to go over with their demographic, which is fine. But what a blow to be so close. And then I didn't think the episode was going to air, because how did they air my episode when I was cut before the next round? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then we found out that it was airing, and it was a whole, a commercial to commercial bit. It was like everything. It was like 6 minutes, and my social media blew up. It was great. It led to a lot of great things, but then it was like reliving that over again, because everyone was like, "Well, where'd you go? How'd you get cut?" What? Like, it was just a really, and I wouldn't change it at all. I would do it all over again. This is the business. People need to know that. This is the business. I do know that they used my audition for future comedians that were trying to get on the show. Like, this is how you get 4 yeses from the judge. They would use mine to show them this is what you do. And of course, that just made me so angry. Like, oh, let them know also that I got cut for no reason. It just was like one of those things that you're like, what?
But you did everything right.
I did everything right.
Which is why they're using you as a model or a template.
I did everything right, except, move to the live rounds,
I just thank you for telling me that story, because I was really curious about that. And the behind the scenes of reality shows is endlessly fascinating to me. Endlessly.
And so not reality, so scripted that people don't realize. Even like all of the favorite, housewife shows, those producers they have prompts, they're getting them ready, talk about this, do this. I don't think people realize that. It's fine. It's entertainment. It's enjoyable.
Right.
All of these shows are enjoyable, and the talent is real on the competition shows. So there's no, you know what I mean? You're obviously watching very talented people, and when you are voting, audience, you are voting for them. But how they get there, it's produced. Yes. It's produced. And again, I'm totally at peace with it and how it went down. I wasn't for a very long time, because it really felt like it. I almost gave up, and I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. And I thought, oh, this is a sign from the universe. I was reading it the other way, like try harder, fight harder. But I thought the universe was like, stay down. I thought they were like, you're not getting it. Stay the fuck down. And I almost did for like a second and a half. And then I had a show at the Irvine Improv, and it was just before it had aired anything. I was just doing a regular spot, sold out audience. And I got up there and people were clapping. And this couple in the front that drove to see me, they just loved me, just screamed out, "We love you." It was just a weird moment right when the audience was settling down. So everybody kind of laughed. And at that moment, I was like, this is why I do it.
Yeah.
For those people that love my comedy. You know what I mean? Nobody can take that away from me.
Drove and sat in front.
Yeah, sat in front and wanted to see me. And that was the turning point where I was like, no, you can't. You don't get to take that away from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just really quickly, funny you should ask.
Yes.
Funny you should ask.
Funny you should ask.
I shouldn't say actually, I enjoy that show.
Oh, I love that.
I like trivia.
Yes.
Scott will attest.
It's ridiculous.
I love that.
And so I was thinking, how smart must the people be who write this show? And it's you.
Yes. Yes.
And so can you give me like insider on this?
Yeah.
I want to know, do you write everybody's lines?
So, I mean, we have a team of writers. I've got 18 right now. 18 amazing content producers, as they're called. They are amazing. When I first started, it was me and 5 others for the pilots. Everybody is just really brilliant, and they scour the internet. And now that we've been doing it 7 seasons, it's really hard to find trivia that we haven't done already. And,
but people aren't that smart.
Yes, that's...
They're that.
I know a lot of times, and especially when they're on camera too, though,
Yeah,
they get
there's like a-
nervous.
yeah, there's like a blank
There's
thing
a blank
that
stare,
happens.
like, oh
Yeah.
god,
I mean,
which I
we
get
watch Family Feud. We know the bar is like
right.
here.
I mean, look, we get it, but it's they're great at their job, and we come up with the jokes, and the comedians like to improvise, with what we've come up with. But yes, we write the trivia, we write the jokes.
It's very smartly written.
Thank you.
So, which makes it more enjoyable for me.
Thank you.
Very much so. And so
it's a great show.
My kids do not watch television at all. They only stream.
Oh yeah.
So nothing with
anything with cable. Yes.
So when I was explaining it to them, they kind of drew a blank.
Of
but
course.
for anyone who isn't familiar with it, it comes on.
So it's syndicated, and you can check your local listings. Funny you should ask. In
Yeah.
California, I believe it's on at 4 and 4:30 on KCAL, I think maybe. But you can also follow us on social media because we post a lot of really funny. Yeah, follow us on social media on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, and YouTube. Funny you should ask. You'll see some of the best jokes, like some of the best comedians that are just a pleasure to work with, and it's really a very special show, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And The World's Funniest Weather is also produced by. They're both created and produced by Byron Allen and Allen Media Group.
I love Byron.
Yes, yeah.
I've known him for years.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Yes, he's amazing, and both of these shows,
smart.
come from his really smart, and come from Allen Media Group, and I'm the host of that, and it's basically a funny weather clip show. We show, you know what I mean? I'm the host of it, and then they green screen me in and throw me into
tornadoes and landslides.
I've been washed away, blown away, and things have fallen on me more times than I can count.
That's great.
But it's a super fun show. They're both really great shows.
Excellent. So we're a little over time, but I couldn't not talk to you for all that time.
No, it was great.
But I remembered something, and I just want to close with this. When I was saying how I'm not very friendly the way Scott is, and I don't usually talk to people, but I talk to you.
Right.
I talked to you because of your daughter, because she had dropped one of the giveaways.
Oh yes, that's right.
And
the sash.
I picked it up and handed it back to her, and then she dropped it again, which to me is like, come play with me, right? It's like, oh, okay, we have a little game going now.
Yes.
And then I was just so struck by how beautiful she is.
It's really beautiful.
And not just the way she looks, but there was an essence there that I got. And then, you were holding her. So.
Yeah, I didn't.
So it was kind of, it was courteous to say hello to you and then talk to you. But that was why I keyed into you, was because of her.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, she's
special.
She's very special. I believe all kids are special, and they bring an element of luck into people's lives. You know what I mean? If you're open to it. I think we forget, the magic of this world. It's a really difficult situation of the way the world is right now, but kids are so innocent, optimistic, fun to the core. There's something about them that we forget, and she reminds me every day. You know what I mean? A little bit of that. So
love that.
I love that her energy, you know what I mean?
And when she's changing your diapers, when you're...
I can't wait.
Then you can let her know that, remember that?
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
My God, you're leaning so into this. It's making me nervous.
It's hilarious.
It makes me feel completely unprepared for being being older. Yeah.
You have two really devoted maternal
but I'm not
daughters.
ready to be like, I can't wait.
Well,
I mean, it's not so much the diaper changing that it is like her bringing me food
yes.
and me. No, actually, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for her to bring me one thing and for me to ask
for another.
Yes. And then she goes and then bring it back and then ask for one more on purpose.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like I get my steps in just from getting her things.
But also the blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I was
I
just
want
in there.
More milk.
Yeah.
You have a half. I want more. You have so much milk left in there. More. And then it's just easier to go and get the milk and bring it back.
And,
I can't wait to just say more to her.
Thank you.
Thank
Jodi.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Just tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on all social media platforms at Jodi with an I, Jodi Miller comic. And then Jodi Miller Comedy is my website. I don't have dates on there. Most of my dates I just post on Instagram. I'm local right now, but I'll be doing the road again soon.
Yeah.
As my special comes out. Look for my special on YouTube, Decades in the Making. And if you like my stuff, comment or send me a DM. Slide in my DMs. And if you're a hot single guy that wants to be a co-parent of a 3-year-old, you can also slide in my DM.
And don't call her ma'am.
Yeah, but don't call me ma'am.
Don't call her ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.